radio show that discusses the emotional, physical, and intellectual pieces to health and wellness that helps us find peace of mind. Here's your host, Brenda Harper.
Good morning. Welcome to Peace of Mind. This is a program where we talk about the many pieces of physical, intellectual, and emotional health and how they all fit together. We want to welcome all of our listeners today and also our guests. We have a lot on the docket today. We have with us author, teacher, herbalist. Her website is darcyfromtheforest.com. Very interesting website if you want to learn about all the wonderful plants, healing plants in the Rocky Mountains and around the area. She also has other books and CDs on her website. What are just a few of the plants that people often have in their own backyard that are very useful and they don't even know about?
Oh, well, a lot of people are familiar with herbs such as valerian and St. John's wort and arnica. All of those are very abundant within our region. We have cottonwood, which is known as balm of Gilead, a very expensive herbal product when you buy it, but you can prepare it from your own backyard. It's the unopened buds of the cottonwood, and the specific with that is the oil from the infused buds, where you just put the buds in olive oil and let them soak for 6 weeks. You get a very dark red oil if you harvest the female buds, which when you squeeze the bud you'll get a bright red coloring. Those buds will yield an oil that will heal from the inside out, where most things heal across. So if you have a deep puncture wound or an abscess, or it's very good for diabetics that have diabetic sores on their legs that won't heal. These heal from the inside out. And
so what are some of the essential oils that we have around our area?
Sage, the sagebrush, the artemisia. We have 3 different types of artemisia that are very common. All yield a different type of essential oil that can be used in small portions for athlete's foot and psoriasis. We use the essential oils in homemade soaps for therapeutic uses. You can also take, say, sagebrush, while we're on this topic. If you have athlete's foot, you can harvest sagebrush leaves and make a foot bath. And if you do that a couple of times a day, it'll get rid of
All right,
your
who's doing it?
athlete's
Is it
foot, as well as toenail fungus.
Wow. And that's just the
leaves of the sagebrush.
Just cut them off, and do you boil them, or?
You put them in simmering water, and you bring water up to a simmer, and then add, say, a quart of leaves per gallon, and then cool it, and then stick your feet in there.
Now, back to Peace of Mind, the show that discusses the physical, emotional, and intellectual pieces of health and wellness that help you find peace of mind. Here's your host, Brenda Harper.
Good morning. You're listening to Peace of Mind. I'm your host, Brenda
I grew
Harper.
up in McCall, and there were a lot of Basque sheep herders, and that's where I kind of developed my interest in the Basque people. So I'd be out on my burro and then later my horse, and they'd give me water and food. Yarrow is I would classify that as the queen of herbs. It has so many healing properties. If you get stung by a yellow jacket, you can take 3 yarrow leaves, chew it, swallow the saliva. The saliva acts as an antihistamine to prevent swelling from the sting, and then you put the chewed leaves as a poultice on the sting, and that stops the pain. If you're in the forest and you get lost, and there's a water source, but you're concerned about parasites or giardia, you can take a handful of yarrow leaves, roll them between your hands to release the essential oil, and put it in your water container or a contained portion of water. Let it sit for 10 minutes, and then you have water that's safe to drink. Now, those are just 2 of the things, of the hundreds of things that you can use yarrow for.
So, and the number to give us a call is 208-465-5785. 0730 and ask Darcy Williamson about any of the herbs in our forest, also in our desert. It's kind of the same area here. We have both in relatively close proximity. We can go from desert to forest. And
that's right. We live in an area that is so biodiverse that we have over 600 medicinal plants. And those are only the ones that I have recognized. And there are a lot of plants that I don't know that I'm certain are medicinal, but I haven't done a monograph or researched them at this point in time.
So how did you get into this?
I've been doing it since I was about 5. Natural interest in plants, and a lot of people say, you know, how do people know about plants? How did this knowledge come into being? And I've always said there's a certain thing that we're born with called instinctive knowledge. All animals are born with it. And I think because I was raised in McCall in the mountains without a lot of structure as a child, that I was able to tap a little more into my instinctive knowledge and develop a natural interest in my environment. In the ground and in the driveway, that's called pineapple weed. And it's a close relation to chamomile. It's actually a rayless chamomile and can be used in the same way.
And that's for relaxation? Mm-hmm. Well, I used to just, I love those things. I'd gather and eat them, and they never seemed to harm us, so we just kept doing it.
Well, that was probably your natural instinct.
So, and I've always been afraid to teach my kids, because I thought, you know, what if those weren't really good for us? I should have looked it up. So they are called a pineapple weed. Mm-hmm. Do they have any other uses?
Well, basically, it's a calming tea to take in the evening. It's also a digestive aid. If you've eaten too many barbecued ribs or something, it helps ease the digestion. It's very good for children because it works very well with children. It's very common plants that are in the old growth forest that have specific uses, and they're more difficult to find.
They're not as... While we're on it, let's talk about the dandelion briefly. And again, I want to remind you, if you have any questions about this topic, about herbs, give us a call. The number is 208-465-0730. And what about dandelions?
Dandelions are great. They're a gift from Greece. They were brought over during a hepatitis outbreak in New York and decided they liked it here and have spread. So they're still the best thing we can take for toxic liver. They're benign. You can drink as much dandelion tea as you can hold without overdosing. And it's
Peace of Mind with your host Brenda Harper on KINF 99.1 FM and 7:30 AM.
Good morning. You're listening to Peace of Mind. I'm your host, Brenda Harper, with my guest today, Darcy Williamson. She is, to find her on the website, you go to darcyfromtheforest.com, and that's D-A-R-C-Y, darcyfromtheforest.com.
Also birch polypore, which is considered one of the most healing for tumors. And it's also good for increasing your energy. And we have mushrooms that will reduce your blood pressure. That's a boudier. And there's just a lot of different mushrooms with different medicinal aspects, but almost all of them have tumor-inhibiting properties.
I do know you also have to be very careful with mushrooms. So before you go out and gather mushrooms, make sure that you get the CD and you get the right information, because some mushrooms can be dangerous.
Yes, mainly the guild mushrooms. There are no known harmful mushrooms that are polypore, but you have to learn what a polypore is.
Darcy, I really want to thank you for being here. How do folks get hold of you?
My website's the easiest, and email fromtheforest@hotmail.com.